In the Prime Minister's speech today, he said that he wants to make the UK the best place in the world to be a veteran. How do you think it is for veterans today in the UK?
I think we transformed from where we were 10 years ago. I think when I came into this, that was my driving force to get into politics, and I wanted to create dedicated pathways for mental health, for homelessness, for physical injuries, for employment. And don't get me wrong, it's been a rough ride. I mean, the last two Conservative Prime Ministers, I've left office under them, right? So it's not been a straightforward journey, but I can honestly, hand on heart, stay here today and state that the UK is in a completely different place when it comes to veterans affairs and what it feels like to be a veteran. Is everything perfect? No, of course it's not, and there's lots more to do. But if you look at, for example, Op Courage, the UK's first dedicated mental health care pathway for veterans, I set that up in 2019. It's 22 to 23 million pounds a year. We had 19,000 referrals in its first year. And where were all these people going before? We've launched Op Restore around physical health, so you don't pay for your prosthetics or any wheelchair assistance that you may need. We've done Fortitude to end forced rough sleeping in the veteran community this year as well. So look, I think we've done some incredible stuff, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend everybody feels that at the moment, and I'll keep going until they do.
I just wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about how it can be to be a veteran. Because I always remember this was kind of really quite a long way back. It was one of my first interviews that I did as a journalist, actually, was with this young lad who'd basically come back from fighting in Afghanistan. I'm always going to remember it. And he had been very badly injured. He couldn't carry a glass of water across the room. His parents had to scrimp and save to pay for the care that he needed. And it just really, it's always stood with me. I've never actually spoken about it on TV before, but it's always just really stood with me, him sharing that story to me. And I just wonder if you could explain a little bit why you think it is that veterans are so often, I just guess, just not cared for properly by the country that they fought for.
Honestly, Sophie, it's been a question of when from my maiden speech onwards, I've often talked about this, and the kind of emotional case for it has always been really clear. But if you're going to actually categorically change what it feels like to be a veteran and not just talk about what you're putting into the machine, but what it feels like coming up through it, you have to go beyond that emotional case to the kind of intellectual application of policy. So, for example, why, when there was millions of pounds in the charity sector, did veterans feel like they couldn't get mental health care? Well, the truth was it was quite discombobulated. It was a bit of a postcode lottery. You had to tell your story a number of times. You didn't always get evidence-based care. What it needed was that real kind of professionalism and leadership that a department outside of the Ministry of Defence could deliver by holding together all those different functions of government to make it work for veterans. And that's the step change we've been able to achieve, is setting up that OVA with a cabinet minister responsible. We're only catching up our Five Eyes allies. You have, the Kiwis and Australians did this in the 40s and the 60s. The Americans did it under Bush in the 80s after Vietnam, and we've done it today. And, we are finally, you don't see cases like that anymore. And if you do, and if anyone's watching this programme tonight who knows of a case like that, they need to get in touch with me straight away. This Prime Minister has made a watershed commitment on veterans affairs, and we're following through that every day. And look, to be frank, I am worried about the election because in the Labour Party, my opposite minister didn't even turn up for questions last week. They've got nothing to say about veterans, and there's 2.27 million veterans in this country who deserve to know what both parties think about them at the election.
OK, thank you very much indeed, Johnny Mercer, speaking to us there.